Hello, students. Welcome back to Part 2, 2016 Release State Questions. To help you get ready for the state test, let's look at question number 8. Scientists study anaerobic fermentation in yeast cells incubated at different temperatures. The amount of carbon dioxide detected at each temperature in 2 trials is showing in the table. So we have a anaerobic fermentation result. We have temperatures going from 20 to 40 degrees. We have trial 1, which is measuring carbon dioxide, and we have trial 2, which is also measuring carbon dioxide. Now, there's 2 kinds of respiration. Remember we talked about cellular respiration that the mitochondria uses? So we can take glucose and oxygen from the plants and turn it into 36 molecules of ATP, and we also give back to the plants water and carbon dioxide. That's cellular respiration, and it's aerobic. However, there are times when we have to use anaerobic respiration if we need a quick burst of energy, okay, and we make lactic acid. However, there's other organisms, such as yeast, that uses alcoholic fermentation, which, again, is anaerobic, does not require oxygen, okay? And alcoholic fermentation makes 2 products. It makes ethanol and carbon dioxide, which, by the way, you can get the answer because you can see the chart. The question's asking you to watch the chart for the carbon dioxide it's getting made. So that would be a product. Now, we got to look over at the chart. We see the temperatures. Now, where's the most? Because it says optimal fermentation temperature. Well, we just got to look at the temperature. It's making the most carbon dioxide, and we can see that's 35 degrees Celsius. See? Not that hard. Okay, now we're going to have a question on the pedigree chart. In a particular species of mice, a single gene, capital B or little b, determines tail length. The short tail allele is sex-linked and dominant, so the short tail is the dominant one. It's the capital B. Shading in the pedigree below indicates that an individual has a short tail. The pedigree shows the pattern of inheritance of the short tail allele over 3 generations of mice. Remember, mom, dad, grandkids? Okay. Now, anytime you have a pedigree chart, you got to look at the key, and usually the male is square because he's a blockhead. You're colored in, you have the trait. So in this case, if you're colored in, you have the dominant gene and your short tail. So let's look here. So what is the question they're asking us? They say individual 6 is a female. What is the genotype of the individual 6? Okay, well, we know guys are X and Y. So let's see. We're talking about 6, so let's look at her parents. In this case, number 3, for it to have the long tail, got to have 2 small b's. And it's also got to have 2 x's, so it'd be X, small b, X, small b. The father, on the other hand, it has the short tail. He has an X, capital B, okay, and a Y. So he gives the short tail gene to his daughter, and his wife, or his mate, gives the long tail gene. But since the short tail gene is dominant, this number 6 is going to be a female, and it's also going to have the short tail. But let's look here what they're asking here. Individual 6 is a female. Okay, what's the genotype? Well, it's got to get a capital X, X. Well, first of all women are XX, so we can eliminate the XYs here. So it's either going to be X capital B, X little b, or X2 little b's. Well, if it's X2 little b's, that means the dad would have to give a little b. He can't possibly do that. He only has 1 X, and that's an X with a capital B. So in other words, the daughter would have a circle, it'd be colored in, and she would have a short tail. A student is asked to draw 4 cells. Which drawing is a representative of a prokaryotic cell? Oh, I love it when the questions are easy. Pro means no. No nucleus, no organelles. U means you do have a nucleus and you do have an organelle. So let's look at our choices here. A has a nucleus. B has a nucleus. C doesn't have a nucleus. Okay, the DNA is just floating around in the cytoplasm. It's single cell. Remember, prokaryotic cells are bacteria. That looks like a picture of a bacteria to me. So C would be the prokaryotic cell. D is a plant cell with organelles and a nucleus. So what an easy one. Remember, pro means no, U means you do. Pro, no nucleus, U means you do have a nucleus. Some bacteria have developed a resistance to antibiotics through random mutations. Remember, changes in the DNA. One such mutation allows bacteria to produce enzymes that inactivate the antibiotics when they enter the bacteria. So which statement describes how the mutation occurs? The mutation occurs when the nucleic acids are replicated. The mutation occurs in the chloroplast during photosynthesis. The mutation occurs in the mitochondria during cellular respiration. The mutation occurs when molecules move across the cell membrane. Well, the answer is the mutation occurs when nucleic acids are replicated. Remember, nucleic acids are DNA. You cannot say the mutation occurs in chloroplast during photosynthesis, right? Photosynthesis, it has nothing to do with mutations. The mutation occurs in the mitochondria during cellular respiration. Cellular respiration has nothing to do with a mutation that's going to be passed on. The mutation occurs when molecules move across the cell membrane. That's just a method of getting things in and out of the cell. Again, the mutation occurs when you're making the DNA, when it's being replicated. Students, pay very close attention to this question. It shows up on every state test in some shape or form, and it's not hard. It's one we've gone over, and I know you can do it. The diagram shows an incomplete cross-section of a cell membrane. 3 different particles are shown moving across the membrane into or out of the cell. So here's our case. The little blue circles are oxygen. The red triangles are glucose, and the squares are sodiums. Determine the appropriate transport mechanism of each particle to move the correct membrane segment into each blank box to complete the cross-section diagram. So here's our blank boxes. So we have the cell membrane. Remember, phospholipid, double layer? Now, we know things get into the cell by passive and active transport. Okay? In this case, I look here, these little blue dots. Okay, that's oxygen. Oxygen's a gas. Okay? It can just go through the cell membrane. Remember, by diffusion, from a high concentration to low. That's passive transport. Now, sugar, glucose, on the other hand, is a bigger molecule, and it needs help. It needs facilitated diffusion to get inside the cell. Again, facilitated diffusion and regular diffusion, you go from a high concentration to low. Osmosis is also where you go from a high concentration to low. But here over here, you're going from a low concentration to high. That's active transport, and that requires energy, and that requires ATP. So there you go. Not hard, but remember, oxygen's a gas. It can just diffuse through the cell membrane. Sugar, a little bit bigger particles, needs help with the protein channel. But when you're going from a low concentration to high, that takes active transport, and that takes energy. And you know what energy is? ATP. Lucky question number 13. A biologist conducting a long-term field study noticed there were 2 types of mice in the valley. One type of mouse had webbed toes, and one type of mouse lacked webbed toes. A dam was built in the valley, turning the land into a wetland. As the years passed, all mice living in the valley were found to have webbed toes. No mice were found with non-webbed toes. Oh, this to me sounds like evolution to me, guys. Okay, when the environment changes and those who can survive and reproduce are the ones that's going to live in the environment. So which statement best explains the observed change in the mouse population? Webbed toes in the mice are controlled by the environment. The mice grew webbing to move more effectively in the new environment. Webbed toe mice survived better and reproduced more than mice without webbed toes. The increased water level in the valley increased mutation rate in the mouse population. Well, just because the environment The web toes just didn't appear all of a sudden. The mice grew webbing to move more efficiently. You guys all know. So survive and reproduce. Web toes mice survived better and reproduced more than the mice without web toes. Remember, genetic variation. There's probably mice born with web toes and without web toes, and the ones with the web toes were able to survive and reproduce. Okay, good question. Question number 14. A cladogram of several members of the phylum Arthropoda is shown. Two new species, X and Y, have recently been discovered. The table shows the traits that these two species possess. Okay, so we have traits: exoskeleton, compound eyes, mandibles, which are jaws, and antennas. Species X has the exoskeleton. Species X has the compound eyes. Species X has the mandible, but does not have an antenna. Species Y has the exoskeleton, the compound eye, the mandibles, and the antenna. So let's look over here. We're going to put species X. Here we go. I like to do this. He has the exoskeleton. He has the compound eyes. He has the mandibles. He has the... No, he does not have the antenna. So he has to go up this road, and he has to be put there. Now, let's do species Y. He has the exoskeleton. He has the compound eyes. He has the mandibles. He has the antenna. Okay? Now, there are actually two correct answers here. You can put species Y here. And that's right. Or you can put species Y here. Okay? Either way is correct. I like putting it here. Okay? So, sometimes when you do these tests, there's more than one correct answer. Okay, guys, we're going to stop part 2, 2016, and we'll come back with another one here again.